So thank you to those of you who've already started sharing your name and your information in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with the introductions. I think we're streaming live now. So my name is Geneva Blackmer. I'm the interim director for the Interfaith Center at Miami University. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that seeks to unify people through relationship building, dialogue, and social action. And this is the final workshop within a 5-part series of religious and cultural literacy workshops that we have been very grateful and excited to partner with the Interfaith Council of Metropolitan Washington to make available to all of you. And we hope that these workshops will help further our mission of reducing religious and culturally motivated bias and discrimination, as well as to create space for respectful dialogue, which cultivates appreciative inquiry and understanding. So again, we're very happy to welcome you to this final session. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Simi to tell you a little bit more about our host organization, IFC.
Thank you, Geneva. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. It's really great to see where people are tuning in from all over the country and overseas, I see. So that's really exciting. So yes, as Geneva mentioned, I would like to, first of all, of course, thank the Interfaith Center at Miami University for inviting us to come and to offer our workshop this afternoon. My name is Simi Ram-Reimer. I am the Associate Director of the Interfaith Council of Metropolitan Washington. And today's workshop is going to be around breaking down stereotypes and misconceptions of different faith communities. And we have wonderful faith practitioners from 3 different faith communities, and they will get into their experiences on this topic more in just a moment. But before we get started, I want to share briefly with you a little bit about the Interfaith Council, or IFC, and then I will turn it over to our speakers. So the IFC has been in existence for over 45 years. We are a regional-based organization made up of 11 different historic faith traditions, including the Abrahamic and Dharmic traditions. Our mission is to create spaces, opportunities, and resources for interfaith engagement in order to advance interfaith cooperation so that religious pluralism will thrive. We do this through a variety of public programs such as group dialogues and unity walks, through interfaith partnerships with congregations, organizations, and local governments, and through local and regional initiatives such as our religious and cultural literacy workshops. So with that, I will go ahead and introduce our speakers. So I won't give them a long introduction, just introduce them by name and by faith tradition, and then they will speak a little bit more about themselves. And just to give you an idea, each faith practitioner today will share some common stereotypes and misconceptions that exist about their own faith or cultural traditions, and talk about how these stereotypes and misconceptions have showed up or can show up in their lived experience, and then they can get into why those are harmful or hurtful, and talk about that a little bit more in detail. Each faith practitioner will present for about 8 minutes, and then we will have the opportunity to break into small group discussion. And in those small group discussions, each faith practitioner will be moderating one of the small group conversations. Every group will have a chance to speak with every one of the faith practitioners. And the idea is to use that opportunity in a more intimate setting to ask more questions, to dive a little bit more deeply into something that the faith practitioner might have said in their initial presentation. And then at the end of the workshop today, we'll come back into a large group discussion and talk a little bit more about what we heard, what things may have struck you in the conversation, and then also brainstorm some strategies moving forward for identifying and responding to stereotypes and misconceptions that you may come across, and how, with this hopefully newfound knowledge that you have, how you might address those. So that's the plan for today. So I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, Hema Sidhu, who is from the Sikh community. Hema?
Thank you, Saimi, and thank you for organizing this group. I am humbled and honored to be part of this discussion group. And I am representing Sikh faith. This is the fifth largest faith, which is followed all over the world. We're about 30 million Sikhs now. And I will be talking about the misconceptions and what hurt Sikh feelings and who Sikhs are actually. And I will go in detail, like Simi mentioned, in the group discussions, and feel free to ask me any question. I will do my best to answer. And if I don't have an answer, I'll try to find an answer for you. So I'm going to start with who Sikhs are and why they are confused. First misconception about the Sikhs is that they are a blend of Hindus and Muslims, which is not true. Sikhs, they have their own way of life, and I call it Sikhi. You may also find terms Sikhism on internet Google when you are doing it, but I like to go by the term Sikhi because to me it's a way of life. It's how we conduct every day in life. The other biggest misconception is that Sikhs came to United States in 90s. The fact is that Sikhs have been living in United States since 1890. And then the question comes, how come 70% of the United citizens don't know about Sikhi? Because Sikhs don't proselytize. We just are peaceful people, follow our faith. If we have been proselytizing, maybe people would have known us more. But again, I'm going to go back to the same thing. Sikhi is a way of life, peacefully living your life, how you conduct in society and leave an impression. The other misconception or the hurtful things which Sikhs have heard, especially after 9/11, go back to your country. Talibans, you are terrorists. They label us with Al-Qaeda. We're called the names to the extent that there was a Sikh who was killed. There was a car accident, and the person who intentionally did this later on said that I thought this person who was a Sikh was from Arab. So just those things, why there is a misconception just because of the outer look, which is men wear turban and they have beard. Just because of those two things, Sikhs and Muslims, they are both confused. Since I'm representing Sikh faith, that's why I'm saying that the Sikhs are target here. Muslims or the persons who follow Islam, they are also targeted. Nothing against, Muslim brothers, but it's just the fact that because of the confusion of the physical appearance, they are targeted. And there were Wisconsin tragedy in the Sikh Gurdwara happened, where they went in and killed people. They were peacefully worshiping. And this happened right here on US soil, which is tragic. Sometimes the Sikhs, they are called the names that when we wear the turbans, is this your bandage? It's very hurtful. And then we as Sikhs use two names which are common. Kaur is for the females and the Singh is for the males. And the Singh is spelled as Singh. And I have my friends, my brothers, those who get hurt. Sometimes, there will be a comment. So Singh, Sing, can you sing? So they drop the H after sing and they call the names with S-I-N-G. Can you sing a sing? So then when a Sikh is trying to tell them who they are, at the end, they will hear a comment, oh, you all look the same. So those are the things I think which, if person is interacting with the Sikh, one should be mindful to see who they are. The physical appearance is a lot different. Sikhs, I have uncut hair, whereas Muslim brothers, they will have their beard, which is trimmed in a certain way. But Sikhs, majority of them, they will have a long beard. It will not be cut. And they do have their hair in a bun on their head, and they will tie the turban around it. The other thing which we hear is, it's a hat on your head. Can you remove it? Sikhs never remove their turban. It's a sign, it's a crown for them. And there's a lot of history which goes behind it, why it came into existence. From the Eastern culture, turbans were always there. There's no denial fact about that. But why did Sikhs carry the turban? It's a lot to go into detail. I'll be happy to discuss this, those who have further questions about the turban on the Sikhs. Sikhs always, they have, if you see a knot on their head, especially in the male, that is their uncut hair. And you will find actually women also wearing turbans. So they go both ways. And even the women, those who wear the turban, they also get the comments. And
1 minute.
got it. The last thing which I would mention about all these discriminatory comments or the slangs which the Sikh brothers and sisters, they hear from fellow brothers. One thing I would like to point out is in the recent COVID-19, Sikhs not only contributed to the food services, they contributed even to providing oxygen cylinders. They provided services to the crematory services when nobody was touching the dead bodies of those who had the COVID. Sikhs were the first to come forward to provide the last rituals without discrimination of which caste, creed, color, race, faith that individual is coming to them for the services. With that, I would like to end here and pass it on back to Simi.
Thank you so much, Hema. And now we're going to turn to our next speaker, Allison Chard from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Allison?
Hi, thank you. And I have to first say, whoever is on this group, I know I already really like you because I'm impressed that you have the interest to find out about other faiths. I think that's so notable and noteworthy. And it's something that I share a passion. And I first just want to say I have so much respect for my friends from different faiths, whatever that may be. And I appreciate this time for me to share a little bit more about things that have been said about my faith. I think all of us here, whatever our faith is or whatever we find valuable, it's something that's a part of us. And if someone makes light of that or is offensive, it truly affects how we feel in our core. And I appreciate this time to share some of those things of misconception. So I prepared just a small PowerPoint. I'm just that might help. So hopefully everyone can see that. I think the first thing that's important is the name of our church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Many of you have maybe heard of our nickname, which is Mormons. And that is something that our leader, who is our leader now, his name is President Russell Nelson. he really said, I would love to get back to the original name of our church because we are Christians. And so the Church of Jesus Christ is how we like to be known now. And so if you have a friend that you may know, a nice thing to do is call them by the name, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, it's interesting, for whatever reason, we have 17 million members, and that it's a global church. We are in the press a lot. Not that we enjoy it, because so much of it is slanderous to who we really are. Many of you have probably heard of the Book of Mormon Broadway play. It's hugely successful. For those of us that share this belief, it's offensive with how they characterize us in that, but I'm just sharing some of the things that you have maybe been exposed to. The other one that is a big one right now that has been very hurtful and offensive to all of us is the one that's on Hulu, The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And I won't take account of how many people have watched it. I'm curious in some ways what your thoughts are on that. But just so you know, everything basically that's being portrayed it goes opposite to who we truly are as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so when something like that, something like this Hulu show is so broadcast, it really does misinform so many people in our community, and then it turns to those that are believers in a very negative way. So I wanted to just accentuate some of the things of who we really are. One thing that we are very big on is humanitarian aid and humanitarian services. To give context to what this photo is, these are volunteers. This is actually an interfaith gathering that's being sponsored at one of our church buildings. And this is something that they call Bag Hunger. And you can see that people of all ages come, but that's something that we're really, that we want to be known for. And this just gives you some statistics from 2023. We had 4,119 humanitarian projects. This is worldwide. We had 6.2 million hours volunteered. We donated as a church to different humanitarian projects, 1.36 billion. And we have 191 countries that we served. So that's how we want to be known. I wanted to talk a little bit. I'm going to make this a little personal because I think one thing that a lot of people mention is our missionaries that go door to door. And I can understand how sometimes that can be annoying. I just wanted to put a face behind those young men and young women that come to your door. So this happens to be my youngest daughter. I have 3 daughters, and she served in New Caledonia. And a lot of that service, she went for a year and a half. It was not paid, and she's just dedicating her time really to help spread what her message is, the message of Jesus Christ. And I show you that picture on the left, but I want to show you this picture on the right to let you know what goes on. So this is me. If you can, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but I'm the one in the blue, and I'm giving her a hug. And then there just happened to be another missionary coming home. This is when they come home. And all these young men and young women that you see out have a mom or a dad at home or a caregiver that cares about them and is worried for their safety. And this was her reunion back, where you're just so relieved that she's safe and taken care of. And it's really a courageous thing that our missionaries are generally 18 to 21 years old, that they go, and similar to like a Peace Corps experience, but doing where they're sharing their belief. So I just pass that along to know that those missionaries, they do have families behind that are caring about them. Something else that we're known for, we are people of faith. I live by the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. This happens to be 3 young men who are on the Navy football team that happen to be members of our faith, and this was just captured. But this is before a game, them kneeling in prayer, and I just, again, we try to be people of faith. The last picture I'm going to show you is one of my own family. And I guess this is what I want to say, and this is how I believe in all faith, is if your faith works for you, that's what's important. If your faith is making you a better person, that's what's important. And I share this with you, that my faith has helped me create something that's important to me as a family, and that we love each other and we work together. And so when people say things that are discrediting to what my belief system is, again, it's harmful, hurtful, because it's something I really have used to build a foundation of who I am as a person. And again, I look forward to our smaller breakouts, because I want people to be courageous enough to ask me questions that you've possibly heard about my faith. And I would love to try to better describe, even though you may not agree, which is totally fine, to better help you understand my faith tradition. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Allison. And those are really adorable babies, by the way, your grandkids.
Thank you.
I would imagine.
Thank you.
Yes, super cute. Okay, so thank you again. And our last presenter is Dash Keys, who will be talking about his pagan community.
Hello, everybody. Excuse me. First, as the others have said, I did want to thank IFC for inviting me to speak, and the Interfaith Center at Miami University for sort of organizing the whole thing. This is awesome, and very kind of excited to be a part of it. It's entirely possible that I might be the first person who practices a pagan faith that you all have the opportunity to speak to. So as Allison was just saying, I look forward to the small groups where we can do a little bit more of a back and forth. Before we get to those, I did have a few things that I just thought were sort of broadly important if you have the opportunity to meet others of a pagan persuasion. The first is sort of just definitional. A lot of folks use the term pagan to refer to anybody who's neither Jewish nor Christian nor Muslim. And in an academic sense, that is sometimes an accurate use of the term, but within the pagan community, we don't tend to see that as the primary definition. For us, paganism tends to refer to a variety of faith practices that look to the ancient world for inspiration. So instead of practicing or finding inspiration from a book or from prophets or leaders of that sort, we tend to look back at an age maybe before some of our scriptures were written, or as our scriptures were being written, and see what sort of spiritual and religious inspiration and knowledge and technology might be available to us from those ages that we, of course, have to modernize. We are not in we're not in the BCE era. We're elsewhere now, or elsewhen now, so we need to, of course, modify and alter as necessary. Another thing to consider, especially with Disney Plus having had the TV show about witches Agatha All Along just so recently on TV, we see TV shows like Charmed, Sabrina, both of the teenage witch variety in the 90s, and The Chilling Adventures on Netflix more recently. We know that witches are a big part of pop culture. They're also a big part of paganism, but they're not the only part of paganism. At the very beginning of this, I think, Simi, you had mentioned that the IFC Council is made up of a variety of faiths in both the Abrahamic and the Dharmic traditions. In a lot of ways, paganism exists that term exists almost all the way up there, underneath which there are more terms for people to know, like heathen or Wiccan or witch or druid. And then even below those are some even more facets and slight differences in community belief or community structure. So not all pagans are witches, even though a lot of pagans are witches, like myself. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on underneath the surface. And frankly, the only way you're going to know about the sort of idiosyncratic nature of who's who and what's what is to just ask, sort of believe people and accept what they say as their own point of view. And I think, as Allison was saying too, that doesn't mean you have to adopt it or even agree. It's just the way they move in the world. One stereotype that comes up a lot for pagans in general is that we worship or only believe in the created world, that we have no sense of a creator or a creative force behind the universe. And that is sometimes the case. Some in the pagan community are atheists or agnostics, folks who just do not really apprehend or encounter the divine. But I think it's safe to say that many, if not most, pagans not only apprehend the divine in some capacity, but very many of us are polytheists. So we don't even necessarily apprehend the divine as a singular, unitary voice, but rather an entire chorus of voices, hopefully singing in harmony, but not always. Sometimes there's some voices, both as we know in our own world, our own human choruses, that are a little bit dissonant or singing a bit off key or at a different tempo. We sort of see the divine in a similar way. Sometimes these different entities, these spirits of place and of time and of people and things of that sort will intersect, maybe even compete. And so while it's accurate to say that pagans have a deep and abiding reference for the natural world, and that in very many ways we are focused perhaps more on this world and how we interact with it, how we try to make it a better, more secure, happier place, many of us still apprehend and have some sort of encounter with the divine, some sort of spiritual life and spiritual practices that sort of infuse our day-to-day lives, similar to, I suspect, the way any spiritual practices that you all might have do so for yourselves. And the last thing I thought I would say is that not all pagans agree on who pagans are or what paganism is. So everything I just said is largely coming from my own point of view. It's a point of view that's been put together for about the last almost 30 years. And a variety of sort of academic level religious studies and religious training as well. So I think I'm pretty close to being able to identify the trends and the trend lines within paganism. But as I said earlier, we have everyone from atheists to polytheists within the community. And as a result, there's going to be a lot of disagreement. We don't have a president or a pope or a governing body or a council of elders that tell folks who we are and how to believe and what to do. Instead, pagans are as beautifully diverse as there are a number of pagans. And even though I help to lead a small religious organization here in the Washington, D.C. area, I even know that within my little religious organization, there's such a variety of belief and a variety of practice that I couldn't tell you exactly what it is we do from moment to moment. It's whatever we're doing right now is what we're up to. It's going to be different tomorrow. It's going to be different the next day. So when you're encountering other folks who claim the moniker pagan, who claim the identity marker pagan, it's, I think, important to do the best you can to try to recognize that even if you've met other pagans, this one could be different. There are obviously similarities, otherwise we wouldn't have the sort of collective noun. And some of those similarities are things like a reverence for nature, like a sense that the things you do are likely more important than the things you believe. There's a variety of characteristics, you might say, that make up a pagan person. But even if you checked all those boxes, you could still be something else. If you're pagan, it's because you accept the label and because you believe that it is important to who you are and how you live, move, and have your being. So I look forward to questions in the smaller groups, and that's all I got for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dash, so much. And thank you again to all of our faith practitioners. I think everybody is going to be looking forward to the small group conversations. So Geneva will now place everybody into 3 different small groups. As I said at the beginning, everyone will have a chance to talk with each of our faith practitioners. Each group session will be roughly 12 minutes, which I know is not a long time, but hopefully will still give you a chance to go a little deeper into some of the questions or conversations that you want to have. So just sit tight, and Geneva will place you in the groups. And I do invite you to turn on your camera when you get into the small groups. Obviously, you're under no obligation to, but it might make it easier for conversation.
Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, you should receive an invitation and you'll have to accept to join.